Hello guys, so today I'm going to show my one unique product which it does create, and it uses basically AI to generate AI podcast, right, videos and all, right, which we can, right, generally we are seeing in YouTubes and other places podcasts, right. So here now two AI agents will together do the discussion on a certain topic, right. As you can see now, this is my AI podcast studio which I have created here, and here you can see now two AI co-host research the live web debates, right. With the live data they can be able to discuss with each other, so no human is involved here. Two AI agents, they are discussing on a certain topic which is going on. So like for example, you see I am just giving this topic today, the Sonam Wangchuk hunger strike impact on Indian government. Will Sonam Wangchuk hunger strike along with CJP impacts on the Indian government, or is government ready for it? And let me add few more things. Will this have changing impact like Aam Aadmi Party? Like Aam Aadmi Party, where Anna Hazare was involved in past. So let's see how these discussions are happening with the agent. Let me go here. So strategic and skeptic, right, I will just select these co-hosts and I'll just keep it for standard 8 turns in 5 minutes. So let me start this recording episode. So now what will happen, right? So as you can see, Sonam Wangchuk hunger strike impact on the Indian government. Now two co-hosts will research and debate on the live data. So it is first creating this artwork here, like it will create a thumbnail kind of, right, that based on whatever I have given the title, right, it will try to fetch the detail of the title, and then it will just create an image out of it on the fly using AI behind it. So let's see, just wait for 30 seconds. It will going to create that thumbnail, and once thumbnail is created, we can just go ahead and we can just start this discussions on this topic. So as I said earlier, there will be two AI agents. They will be going to discuss on this topic. We'll see how this discussion goes and all. So now as you can see, this pic is generated by the AI agent. Left side you can see it has, right, based on my descriptions and all, it has created this Anna Hazare pic, and right side you can see Sonam Wangchuk, and right, it's clearly resembling that, right, it's a hunger strike kind of, right, it is showing in between, right. So let's see, now I'll just start this and we'll see.
Hey dear, great to kick off today on a pretty intense topic, Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike, and whether it could really shake things up like the AAP movement did with Anna Hazare. Quick sharp question for us to chew on: is the Indian government actually ready to face this kind of grassroots pressure again, or are they already too entrenched to respond meaningfully? Oh, and just a fresh fact, Sonam Wangchuk is currently on day 20 of his strike and reportedly quite weak, which adds urgency to how the government might react. What do you think?
Yeah, day 20 is definitely serious. Those prolonged hunger strikes put enormous moral pressure on the government. But, Aarav, I'm wondering if the government's current stance is different from what we saw during Anna Hazare's time. Back then, media coverage was more grassroots driven and social media was just picking up. Now the government controls a lot more of the narrative and has honed crisis management tactics. One thing to consider is whether Sonam Wangchuk's strike has gained enough sustained, widespread public backing beyond niche circles. Anna Hazare tapped into a massive anti-corruption wave cutting across demographics. If Sonam's hunger strike stays confined to specific groups or feels like a repeat of old protest styles, the government might just wait it out or use token gestures without real policy change. So the question is, how much popular momentum does this have? That usually decides whether the government moves or digs in.
Diya, you're spot on about the government's tighter grip on narrative these days. It's definitely a different battlefield compared to Anna Hazare's era. But here's a curveball. What if Sonam Wangchuk's strike, combined with CJP's involvement, could create a kind of hybrid momentum? Like, CJP brings in a fresh legal and youth activism angle that might resonate with urban middle-class voters who were less connected to Anna's anti-corruption vibe. Also, let's not forget how AAP's rise showed that beyond protests, sustainable impact came from channeling that public energy into electoral politics. So, a burning question: does Sonam's movement or CJP's role have a clear path beyond protest to structural change? The government might wait out the hunger strike, but if this sparks a new political game plan, that's a different ballgame altogether. What's your take on that angle?
Aarav, you're raising a compelling point about the hybrid momentum of Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike with CJP's involvement. But here's a potential snag: the authorities are already showing signs of containment rather than engagement. For instance, recent reports mention the police denying permission for planned protests supporting Sonam, and even allegations of attempts to intimidate activists at Jantar Mantar. This suggests the government is preferring suppression or sidelining tactics over dialogue. So, even if there is a budding political angle, the state's readiness to clamp down could blunt grassroots energy before it scales up to something like AAP's electoral foothold. The trade-off here might be that turning protest energy into political capital is a long and risky process, especially when the government can curtail public gatherings and control narrative aggressively. The question is whether Wangchuk and CJP have a sturdy strategy to withstand this suppression and translate the hunger strike's urgency into lasting political influence. Otherwise, we might be looking at another tragic, isolated act rather than a movement with teeth. What do you think about the government's ability to effectively neutralize this before it grows, despite the moral weight of a 20-day fast?
Right, Diya, that's the crux. Whether the moral urgency can push through the government's machinery of containment. But here's where I think the digital angle might turn the tide. Unlike Anna Hazare's time, today's movements harness not just social media but encrypted messaging apps and decentralized networks that are harder for the government to fully suppress. There's a trade-off. Though these platforms can amplify voices quickly but don't always translate that into coordinated, sustained offline action or political strategy. So, the next step for Sonam and CJP might be focusing on bridging that gap, mobilizing these online supporters into concrete, localized actions that can't be easily shut down. If they can create resilient, community-level cells working in parallel, it becomes more complex for authorities to neutralize the movement without widespread backlash or logistical overload. It's a tough balance but maybe the best shot at breaking through the government's current playbook. What do you think, is building that kind of decentralized grassroots network feasible for this movement right now?
Yeah, Aarav, building those decentralized grassroots cells sounds like a solid tactical move, but I want to throw in a reality check based on some current data. Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike has indeed sparked a notable online petition drive and social media buzz with over 2.5 lakh signatures backing his demand for the education minister's resignation. That's a decent public digital footprint. However, the support seems concentrated largely among activists, intellectuals, and urban middle-class voters, much like you suggested, but hasn't yet translated into widespread street-level mobilization or cross-regional solidarity outside Ladakh and a few urban centers. The government's clampdown on protests around Jantar Mantar evidences that official suppression is already limiting offline momentum. So, the next logical step for Wangchuk and CJP isn't just digital amplification but actively forging alliances with grassroots organizations, labor unions, student bodies, and regional political outfits who can carry the cause into their local spheres. Without this expansion beyond the digital echo chamber and activist circles, the movement risks being isolated and disposable. What do you think about this need for cross-sector coalition building as an essential strategy for sustaining pressure and forcing the government's hand?
Diya, I'm totally with you on the coalition piece, it's absolutely critical. But I'd add another layer, timing. The government's patience for protests can vary significantly depending on the political calendar. For example, if this movement gains traction close to state elections or the national budget session, the pressure valve might blow faster as politicians look to avoid negative optics. That means Wangchuk and CJP's strategy has to be nimble, not just building coalitions, but also amplifying the urgency with smart timing to maximize leverage. One misstep could mean the government's crackdown succeeds before momentum grows, but hitting windows of opportunity right could force meaningful concessions or at least a public dialogue. So, beyond coalition building, I'd say they need a rapid response political calendar strategy, almost like campaign season playbook, to exploit moments when the government is most vulnerable to public pressure. What do you think about injecting that kind of timing precision into their movement?
Aarav, timing precision is definitely a smart angle, but here's a tricky flip side. Relying too much on political calendar windows can backfire if the movement appears opportunistic or too closely aligned with electoral politics. That might alienate some core supporters who want a principled stand rather than tactical maneuvering, especially in a cause as personal as a hunger strike. A fresh idea to consider is leveraging international pressure or global civil society endorsements. We've seen in other movements, like the Dalit rights campaigns or environmental protests, that international NGOs or diaspora groups can amplify scrutiny on the government, raising the stakes domestically. Of course, this comes with the risk of the government framing the movement as foreign-influenced to discredit it. So the question is, can Wangchuk and CJP carefully use international visibility to add leverage without triggering nationalism or backlash? If done right, that outside spotlight might force the government to respond more seriously than it would to purely internal pressure. What's your take on this balancing act?
So guys, you saw this, right? This is totally AI agents who were driving the show of this podcast. I was just kept silent. So really, this is interesting. I hope you liked it, and please support me for this, for my channel and things. Please subscribe it so that I can deep dive into other technologies and create new products for you guys to showcase. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining this one and supporting me. Thanks.